So I'll be honest, like, the term creative is one that I've been hearing like used increasingly since from the time that at least I entered the kind of artistic scene here. You know, it's like that being the music, photography, like visual art scene, whatever. Creative seems to be the term that people default to when they're describing, I guess, their place or what they're doing. And I don't know, it's just an interesting term, I think, and we wanted to kind of unpack it because there's a little bit of ambiguity as to what it actually means.
It's one of those words that really kind of bring out a mixed reaction from whoever you're discussing it with. It's either kind of exasperation and eye rolling, or it's kind of owning it with pride, or looking at it as some sort of kind of aspirational role. And we're just trying to unpack in this video what it means to us and kind of what we understand it to mean for other people as well.
We definitely noticed it's like the Melbourne word of choice. Creative. And well, I think I'd assume that the reason so many people use it is because it's a good sort of, you know, coverall word. Like, it kind of encompasses so many different things as opposed to like having to specifically name what kind of artist you are. But in that same broadness, I feel like its meaning can also get a bit lost. I guess to the kind of untrained eye, or like someone that just is sort of observing it from the outside, I think the term creative can be a bit confusing because it can honestly seem to be just the sort of people that go to a particular type of events.
Yeah,
like,
and dress well.
And whoever cool, you know, like Air Max 97s, Air Max 95s, you're a creative, or wide pants or whatever it is. It's like
chains on the jeans.
Yeah, or whatever. Like, I think it becomes like more of an aesthetic word or a word to describe like a look than it is to describe what people are actually doing.
Yeah.
But nowadays, hey, that ain't shit. The PC magic, the clean edit, straight fucking up every song.
I think it should carry a positive connotation, but I can't say that I feel positively when I hear that phrase being used. I noticed for myself recently that I tend to like scoff a little bit when I hear it. I still use it legitimately. I still use it as a legitimate defining word, but when I hear it being used, I'm like, oh, creative, like, huh.
Yeah, it's not, like you just miss it a bit.
Yeah, not because I'm looking down actual like people who are creating stuff, but it's because, to be honest, I feel there's, and these aren't shots at anyone, but there's a lot of, you know, kind of putting on a cool outfit, looking cool, maybe being present at
certain events,
and then saying I'm a creative, but it's like, what do you actually do? And I do understand that part of it is also some people are trying to figure it out, and again, it's not coming for those people who are trying to figure out what their thing is, because I understand the kind of hustle of wanting, you know, of being creatively minded, just not knowing how to express that, because maybe you came up in high school, wherever you came from, you didn't have an outlet, and now you're out here with all this energy, you want to put that out somehow. And clothes and Instagram is oftentimes the best and quickest way to do that. However, I do think there are some people who just kind of wear it too proudly without kind of having put work into it. Because just because, and I say that because a lot of the creatives that I know, that we know, they put so much work into what they do, and that changes my kind of look on what a creative is.
You don't want to almost like, when you use too much of a blanket term, or it's too easy to assign a term to it, it kind of can like unintentionally have the effect of like invalidating people who seriously work on their craft, or like are producing consistent work and all this kind of stuff. But I think, you know, that was a good point you said earlier about like it being okay, the word is kind of like a good safe space for people that aren't sure exactly what their outlet directly is, but you know, you can tell someone who's a bit of a creative person, even if they don't draw, or they don't sing, or they don't have that direct thing, because it's just sort of maybe an appreciation for something. Even something like curating, you know, I think even though it's a thin line, sometimes surrounding yourself by creative people, you know, who you surround yourself with does like have an element of what it does reflect your interests and your genuine passions. So it is, in what Noah was saying, it's kind of a good safe word. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're still figuring that thing out.
Let me actually raise a question on that though. It's a good safe word, but should it be a good safe word?
Young and smart, so we need pay. We finna rock like homeboy K Ojo the G face.
Because those people who are creative and don't know how to express it and are figuring out, more power to them, respect to them. But should it be one of those words where it's like you get to be creative once you've done or you've expressed that thing in some.
That's actually interesting though. I think I personally don't like to call myself things that I don't feel like I'm living up to. So in that sense, you know, like calling yourself a creative and then just chucking on the first, you know, clout outfit that you can and taking a few snaps on Instagram, even though that has a kind of degree of like not a respect for the actual craft. At the same time though, I think getting in too much into the thinking of, you know, you don't get to be creative. You don't think. I think that goes against the very essence of being not even a creative, but like just an artistic person. I think artists tend to like.
It goes.
Sorry, no, go on.
Oh, sorry to interrupt, but it kind of goes against what makes the Melbourne scene so creative.
Exactly. It's like, because Melbourne, the art scene here, it's so eclectic, all different ages, all different like crafts, all different backgrounds. And I think when we start to so heavily condemn people and point at people and say, you're not a creative, you haven't earned this, or you don't do enough of this, that is not what artists or artistic people do. We are always the people that people come to when they've had enough of that. I mean, you've experienced that in high school, people telling you what you are, people telling you you're not this enough, you're not that enough. And I think that's why a lot of people gravitate towards the scene in the first place, is because there's a freedom. But at the same time, I think you just have to pair that freedom with a certain respect for the core of what it is that we're trying to accomplish as a scene, because otherwise it can get a bit exhausting, because then we're starting to ask the question of, you know, creative versus influencer versus clout chaser. And where do you kind of make that distinction?
Well, before I answer your question directly, I like that you said that it's about having a respect for what it is. I think that's probably the difference, and where the exasperation of the term comes from. Is people who wear the term who have no respect for what it takes to be one. It's not that someone who's done this, that, and that can then cast judgment on people and say, oh, you're not a creative, you are a creative. It's not about that. But I think the frustration comes from those who don't have a respect for the endeavors they're exploring, you know. They kind of see it as, oh, this looks easy, and then they just, you know, don't respect it.
T tricks the crowd on purpose, the side G flips, and now move you on to scene 6, bitch.
As irritating as they can sometimes be, influencers can sometimes blur the line, because I guess it does take a degree of creativity to be able to post to that degree and to have interesting posts. And not all influencers are annoying. I'm not saying all influencers are terrible, but there are just some.
Because it's like in you know, even the term influencer, it's like you can't help if you have influence. Like if you start like sharing a particular like content and it engages and interests people, and to the point where you have a large following, that's not something to be scoffed at. But I think when we say influencer, the connotation it has, at least similar to creative, is very much like all aesthetic. There's nothing. It's quite empty. It's quite a vapid thing.
Kind of, you know, based on image, which technically isn't actually fair, because a lot of people use the term and use that role, and they use it to empower themselves and others and stuff like that.
I've seen lots of examples of that.
But you know, they're essentially entrepreneurs, some of them. But so I say influence kind of blurs the line. It depends on how you're doing it, because some very much are very self-serving, like, oh, my image, whatever, and they just so happen to stumble upon someone will DM them and say, hey, can you put my stuff on, and boom, they're an influencer. But they were just serving themselves. But there are lots of influencers who are actually using it to expand in a business sense, and I guess that is creative. However, I still wouldn't say it's a creative, just because of my kind of, I guess, old-fashioned thing of creativity being based around art. So like photography, videos, music, art, painting, illustration, stuff like that. And I guess it's not conventionally, technically speaking, it is creative because it's using your mind and your imagination to put something out and to engage people. But in a conventional way, I'd say it isn't. And that's why I make the distinction, I guess. You also have to look at what they're influencing for, what they're trying to do with their influence.
That's interesting that you said that, because it's like what you kind of define creativity as, or like, in a more conventional sense in terms of like creating some kind of art, it fits. The difference between creative and like artist, I think, I've just thought of it as you were talking, is that creative also encompasses a certain level of curation. And I think like curating has always been this kind of blurred spot of artist, like being an artist, because it's like a lot of the time being a curator consists of surrounding yourself with creative people, and even a good Instagram page is, maybe a collection of other people's photography and other people's art, but presented in a way that engages the audience. That in itself is a different skill. But is it a creative skill? That's up for debate. But I think we kind of like indirectly include that when we say creative.
In my personal opinion, I think curators are creative because it takes creativity to be able to spot what's going to go well together. I mean, that's essentially what DJs are. They curate a bunch of songs, except the only difference is they're mixing it. And because of the mixing and stuff like that, that's when it's seen as creative. But the actual gathering of songs and, how will this blend into the other song, how to leave, that's creative. Same with curating events. Essentially just bringing in mixing paintings. This exhibition will look good to this exhibition, or let's have this DJ in this setting. Like I think curating is very creative. I think it's very important as well, because those are the guys that get our art seen by the right people.
Yeah, that's actually a role necessary to kind of actually empower and give artists' work more impact. So that's a good point as well.
On the original question, which was the difference between creative influencer and a clout chaser, I think a clout chaser is quite easy to spot out. Like I think they don't they bend the time there, but they're just someone who chases the trends. They copy what they see. There's no originality or base behind their ideas. It's not inspiration, they just copy. They kind of parrot what people are saying. Their language starts morphing into exactly what everyone else is saying. But you actually ask them about their stuff and they have no actual stance on anything.
It's all just a bit of a performance.
They experiment with a bunch of art and just put out mediocre stuff. I mean, obviously mediocre is subjective, but we know that. And we see you. We see you, don't worry.
Pray that no one takes the game tomorrow, cause I question my belief, but I pray for her account. So if a day ends up going,
I'm talking about craftsmen, artists, in terms of, your on the ground musicians, writers, visual artists. Do you think that the term creative ultimately empowers them, or do you think that it can kind of diminish what they're doing? Should we say, my friend is a photographer, a visual artist, or is it okay to put that broad label on it?
I think it doesn't really do anything. I think at the start of their careers, it's a bit of an empowering thing, simply based on the fact, and again, I can't speak for other people's journey, I'm just imagining it through my head, but I can picture it being empowering just simply based on the fact that it gives you a community and an identity. But then when you get further in your craft, you specialize, you don't want to be necessarily called, what a great creative, when you're an excellent singer. Such a great,
It's kind of like what moves into YouTubers as well.
Well, yeah.
YouTubers are always talking about how they resent being called a YouTuber.
Well, yeah, because YouTuber for someone else might mean like Minecraft commentary. And for someone else it might mean prank videos, and for someone else it might mean deep analysis videos and video essays.
Or short films or something.
even when talking about bread, like I sometimes don't like to say I run a YouTube channel because people just
No, I never phrase it like that.
You know, and no diss to vlogs. I refer to it as like a video project or just an ongoing
Or a
project
platform
or platform, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think it doesn't really do anything, to be honest. It's one of those words that I think it gives you powers and validates you at the beginning, does nothing as you specialize. But if you're truly like good at multiple things, like a Childish Gambino level, it then becomes empowering again, but not based off of the word, based off the fact that the talent is so immense that we have to use a word.
We have to have something to shorten it.
There are multiple people who are good at multiple things. So I think it really depends on the context, but from what I've seen, it kind of comes out, and then later, I guess, depending on where you specialize, can come back in again. But to answer your question in one sentence, I'd say it doesn't empower, nor does it diminish. It just describes.
Yeah. I think like thinking about the example that you used of Childish Gambino is like, he's interesting because I think at the beginning of his career, you know, it was very much like, what does this guy do? And he's always talking about like on his early mixtapes how people used to clown him for rapping, and then he's like suddenly a stand-up comedian, and then he's this and that. And I think at the beginning it might have more of a bearing, you know, like that title. But as you start to specialize, or as you start to even just hone all of your individual talents and crafts, people come to respect. When they call you that, they're calling you that with respect. Or oftentimes, if you're so good at each individual thing, you're respected in each individual field as that. So like if we're talking about TV, Childish Gambino is an excellent director, or Donald Glover is an excellent, you know, director and actor, if we're talking about Atlanta. Or if we're talking about rap, he's a brilliant rapper. It's like people they meet you where you're at eventually. So the term doesn't matter. Creative also is good because, you know, you change and evolve as an artist. You know what I mean? Like recently, if I'm using myself as an example, I've been going through a much more writing phase, and I haven't been doing as much drawing. But next year I could be really prolific in that thing. It's like, and so there's that space. So I think it doesn't actually matter. The term itself doesn't actually matter as much as it seems to. Probably in the long run, you're probably right.
Paradoxes work that way, that's why I charge them. I write my life to make way for the money.
So those were our thoughts on the word creative. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I know it sounds generic, but stuff like that really does help support the channel. And if you enjoyed this episode and this kind of style of video, be sure to just write that in the comments. Like if it was up to us, we'd always have like the super mega high production videos, but we can't. And that's what was kind of keeping us hesitating to put stuff out. But if you like it how it is now, then we'll keep dropping these more and more.
If there's anything that you want to hear discussed, or any kind of topic that you feel is relevant, or even that you want to join in, to be honest, let us know. Like we always are like happy to include different people and different perspectives. So just send us through any thoughts or topics that you had in mind.
This has been Bourne Bred. Catch you next time.
Thanks.
Then we can just walk off. Oh, don't do that.
What I sort of believe, what we sort of achieve, shit, what we sort of achieve, what?